Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the author of the book, one of my books, anyway. I got a lot of books. You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church: How to See God Everywhere. And today I'm going to read chapter 7. That way you don't have to buy the book, right? But I'm going to start with something I think is a great preface and why I wrote the book. So let me read this. The search for God is over. God is in the now. There's nothing you need to do to earn God's love. God resides in the moment, every moment, and especially the moments and the people that really bother us. That's hard for most people to grasp. That's where people who understand this concept discover the greatest gift, or at least I did. It's easy to see the gift in the moments and people we love. It's very challenging to find any gift in people who disagree with us and with those you don't have our one true faith with, right? They don't share your faith, your one religion, or political beliefs. I mean, we see that all over the place today. Or your boss or coworkers who you define as awful. There's gifts in all that. You'll learn more about it as time goes by. Maybe if you start pondering that, what's the gift in this? How can I learn and grow from this person? Why do they bother me so much? So perhaps they bother you because they are your teachers. How about that? Showing you what you don't know that you don't know about yourself. What if God sent them to wake you up, to become more compassionate, more forgiving, more loving, or less rigid in your own beliefs? How about that, right? I wasn't afraid to die the day I needed an ambulance. Many people and the EMTs asked me how I was doing, and my answer was, I don't know how my body's doing, and I am grateful. 5 days later, I flatlined with 2 friends at the end of my bed. 1 second here, the next with God. Immense light, mercy, grace, and love are what I felt immediately. There was no past or future, only the now. The next scene was my life review. This bothers a lot of people. And only the good I had done flashed before me. No mention of my sins, in quotes, I say. I had always suspected that the creator of a universe was more interested in what I learned and the good I had done, not the places that I fell. We're here to learn and grow. That's the purpose of this life and the purpose of the chaos and conflict. We're here to learn and grow. Let me say that again. Does anyone learn to walk without falling? I ask people. This is what this existence on earth is about, not perfection. People who think they're perfect and know better because they follow all the rules of their religion, their church, and that's hubris, by the way. I mean, if you wanted to consider that a sin, no, it's a place you have to learn and get over yourself. Because if you think you're better than anyone, let me tell you, you're not superior to anyone. You're not beneath anyone. You're just another bozo on the bus. We're all God's creations. There's no one better. And you take none of what you think makes you better with you when you die. At least I didn't. There was no mention of the work I was doing, the houses I owned, the books I had written, there was no mention of that. What we think matters from the outside in, right? Validation from the outside, the public, matters not to God, or at least what I saw when I flatlined. No mention of my sins. You know, I had always suspected that the creator of a universe was more interested in what I learned and the good I had done, not the places I fell. We're here to learn and grow. Did anyone learn to walk without falling? I'm saying that again because I want to emphasize it. This is what this existence. The idea of sin and hell are man's creations, not God's. Which one of your children would you condemn to eternity in hell for a mistake they made? When I ask that question, people always answer, oh, no way, Steve, I couldn't. So then I ask, so then Does that mean you think your love is greater than God's? Is that what you are suggesting? Enjoy this creation, this miracle God created for us all. Fall, make mistakes, and really live fully without the fear of retribution or death. Perhaps if you commit a heinous crime, you keep coming back here until you get it right. I don't know. I wasn't shown everything. Or consider this. Some have suggested, by the way, in other near-death experiences, that those who commit these crimes and dictators that kill millions are here for a purpose. They agree to it, that they'll be hated and despised someday, so that we can choose a higher path. Without chaos and conflict, we wouldn't learn. How would we know to make a new choice without things that really we find despicable in others, especially heinous criminals and leaders of governments who do heinous things? I mean, just think about the governments that are killing thousands of people because they don't like the way those people live, because they don't follow our way. Perhaps someday humans all over the world will decline to serve in any military. What would governments do? Perhaps humans will decide to never kill another human for any reason. What would governments do? I don't know. What choice would they have if everyone refused? God has a purpose for this existence, and it's chaos. There's a purpose for it. The idea of an angry, vengeful God is human thinking. Do you think the creator of this unimaginable universe could be so small-minded? See, humans are small-minded. We're small-minded. We think like God. We are so far off. At least in my experience, it was way beyond my comprehension. Way beyond it. Humans are small-minded and petty. Do you think the creator of this unimaginable universe could be so small-minded? God is infinitely larger than any egoic thinking humans have. Like the universe is beyond our comprehension, right? Any of you figured out how to make a universe? Let me know, please, because I'd like to help you make another one. Like the universe is beyond our comprehension, so is God. The God we read about in holy books was written by humans who, while inspired, may have written their stories on the day their neighbor killed their dog, or the army destroyed their village. Do you think that God stopped talking to us over 2,000 years ago? Do you think God is monitoring how we eat, what we eat? Do you think God is monitoring how we wash, pray, and how many times we go to a church? Do you think we have such a modern life with the advances we have seen in just the last 50 years, and God is stuck in ancient times? Do you think we come close to thinking like God? As I said earlier, can you create a universe? It's our hubris that limits us, believing we think like God, and we choose to model like our own. God is asking us to advance our thinking and embrace the moment as God everywhere. So let me tell you what I experienced. God's unconditional love, as talked about in books and in our places of worship, is not something we can earn. God was in the now during my time there. There was no past or future. I call it the now on steroids. I came to understand that God's unconditional love is loving the moment where God resides. Christ said everything works together for good. Muhammad said what reaches you was never meant to miss you, and what misses you was never meant to reach you. Think about both prophets essentially saying the same thing. Those statements can serve as our guide when our little small-minded brains suggest that anything in this life is out of order in the universe, right? If anything was out of order in a universe, including in our lives, the whole thing would come flying apart. It wouldn't just be only exempt to our lives being out of order, and then the universe is always in order. After my near-death experience, I realized that I was more afraid of living fully. I was not afraid to die. Read the God of Spinoza. That's what I say to people, like Einstein said. Spinoza lived from 1632 and until 1677. He didn't have a long life, and maybe he had a near-death experience like I did. When you read it, you'll be amazed. Go read the God of Spinoza. Einstein would often say, when asked about his idea of God, go read the God of Spinoza. That forms my idea of God. He would also answer this way: the superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe forms my idea of God. What I witnessed on November 18th, 2002 was far beyond my comprehension. And I've been granted an extra 8,649 days since then to tell the story and help people move away from small-minded thinking. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote this book. It's one of many books I've written. This one I wrote earlier this year, in fact. So today I'm reading chapter 7. So it starts with the last question, a parable. An old seeker finally reached the place he believed held the final answer. He had crossed borders, religions, philosophies, and versions of himself to get there. I'm reading from my book, You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church, How to See God Everywhere. So this is the parable. So the teacher waiting for him was not impressive, right? So he was on a search. No robes, no incense, no symbols, just a man sitting quietly, watching the light move across the floor. The seeker bowed deeply and asked the question he had carried his entire life: where is God? The teacher didn't answer. Instead, he said, ask it again, but this time don't move. The seeker stood still. No reaching, no remembering, no comparing. He asked again more softly, where is God? The teacher gestured to the space between them. Before you ask the question, he said, where are you? He noticed the weight of his body. The seeker opened his mouth to respond and stopped. He noticed the weight of his body, the sound of breath entering and leaving, the warmth of the room, the quiet intelligence holding it all together. Nothing changed, and yet everything did. Tears came without sadness to the man. The teacher finally spoke. God does not appear at the end of the search. God appears when the search no longer leaves the moment. The seeker laughed, not because he understood, but because he saw. There was no place to arrive, no belief to protect, no door left unopened. Only life expressing itself here, now, endlessly present. And for the last time, the question was no longer necessary. So I'm reading from chapter 7 from my book, You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church, How to See God Everywhere. After my life review, there were no instructions, no explanations, no evaluation, no judgment. That angers people too. Only a question, not spoken out loud, but in my consciousness, unmistakable. Stay or go? There was no pressure in it, no urgency, no consequence implied. God didn't ask the way humans ask questions, seeking information, persuasion, or control. It was offered, right? Stay or go is what I was asked. Pure consciousness, open, neutral, and complete. In that moment, everything fell silent. There was no fear of death, no attachment to identity, no argument for either answer, only clarity. The nature of the question, stay or go, was not about location. It wasn't about heaven versus earth. It wasn't about reward or punishment. It wasn't even about continuation or ending. It was about alignment. It was the most respectful question imaginable, one that assumed nothing was missing, nothing was wrong, nothing needed justification. For the first time, choice existed without pressure. My answer arose before thought could shape it. Because we don't have this little thinker, by the way. That little voice in your head, at least in my case, I don't try to convince anybody of anything. It didn't go with me. Everything from here was not there. Nothing from here was what awaits us. It's way beyond my comprehension anyway. I hope it will be for yours too. Maybe it aligns with our thinking. For people that are afraid of hell, maybe they'll experience it. Hopefully they come back. Your thinking is powerful. My answer arose before thought could shape it. Thy will be done is what my consciousness answered. Not as submission, not as obedience, as trust. There was no sense of giving something up. There was no sense of being overruled, only a recognition that whatever continued was already right. The question dissolved the need to decide. My consciousness surrendered right away to thy will be done. And I had surrendered even waiting for the ambulance because people were asking me, Steve, how you doing? I said, I don't know how my body's doing. And I'm grateful. I did not fear death. What I realized later, I had been more afraid of living fully. Enjoy this life. That question did something irreversible. So now I'm talking about what the question revealed. It revealed life is not accepted, that consciousness is not trapped, that existence is not imposed. Even at the edge of what we call death, there was no force, only invitation to what's next, which is what I believe we should call death. If that is true, it is likely true here as well, right? It's a myth. We scare ourselves with the idea we're going to die. Yeah, we leave here, but only the people you leave behind care. And some of them don't. Just think of the people that were railing against people who died this week, right? I mean, silly. Most people live as if the question has already been answered for them. This is the question you are already living, by the way. They assume they must stay. They assume they must endure. They assume they must qualify or justify their existence through productivity, belief, or suffering. But what if the question is still open? Not dramatically, quietly. What if every moment is asking something similar? Not in words, but in tone. Not are you worthy, but are you present in the moment? That's where God is. The idea of unconditional love, by the way, is being in the moment, because there was no past or future when I was one with God. There was no past or future, only the now. Not have you earned this, but are you here for it? Yeah, are you here? Because what happens is this little brain judges every moment, good or bad. Maybe good, maybe bad, who knows? But just sit with it, be with it, because what reaches you was never meant to miss you. Everything works together for good. And what misses you was never meant to reach you, is to not lament anything and then not to reject anything and be angry. Why? It's from God. That's where God resides, in the now. So stay or go, reconsidered. To stay does not mean survival. It means participation. That's what I've been doing ever since that day. I'm embarrassed to say that I was 50 the month earlier, the day I needed an ambulance, November 13th. And 5 days later, when I flatlined, it was on the 13th that I fully surrendered to whatever was going to happen. I don't know how my body's doing. When people ask me, Steve, how you doing? We call the ambulance. Oh my God. I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. To stay does not mean survival. It means participation. To go does not mean death. It means leaving the moment through distraction, resistance, or story. Most people go without dying. They leave through thought. Yeah, most people are absent from this life through thought because they let their brain take them all kinds of places. Staying then becomes something very simple. Staying here is attention. And the next moment, 1 second I was fine doing a seminar, and the next second I needed an ambulance. And I was fully present. It didn't matter. I wasn't afraid to die. Like I said, I realized later I was afraid of living fully because of all the myths and the stories we've been told that are not true. They're not true. The question that changes shape. Once seen, the question no longer belongs to the afterlife. It belongs to the now. There's nothing to wait for. We're in the afterlife. We're in the present now. The afterlife doesn't change when you leave your body. It's here now, being fully present. But this brain takes us away from being fully present. Stay with this breath. Stay with this discomfort. Stay with this ordinary, unremarkable moment. Or go into memory, projection, identity, and interpretation. The choice is quieter than you expect, and it keeps presenting itself. No right answer. There was no correct response to stay or go. There still isn't. The power of the question is not in how it's answered, but in what it reveals. That you are not trapped. Life is not imposed. The presence is voluntary. Nothing needs to be made of this. Nothing. No belief needs to be adopted. No meaning needs to be assigned. Just notice something simple. You are still there. And the question, in its gentlest form, is still being asked every moment. Will you stay with what is, or will you resist and go? And here's a picture in the book. It's at the end of chapter 7. God does not appear at the end of the search. God appears when the search no longer leaves the moment. There's no need to go looking for God. I mean, you could if you want. There's no need. God is everywhere. I'm reading from my book. I just finished chapter 7. Next week I'll read chapter 8. You miss God on the way to the mosque, the temple, or the church. How to see God everywhere. And we've been told so many stories, right? And we're believing books that are over 2,000 years old. Some not that old. But Vedic traditions go back even further. And we've modernized, right? Humans have modernized our living. But we think God hasn't come along with us. God stopped talking to us. The creator of a universe. It is such small-minded thinking. And what God is urging us to do is to advance, get over ourselves. Get over ourselves. And life becomes more chaotic when we resist the lesson, because that's the gift in chaos and conflict. It's urging us to learn and grow. Remember, if sin and hell were really part of this existence, which one of your children would you condemn to hell because they made a mistake? Everyone answers me, no, Steve, I couldn't. So then your love is greater than God's? God created this existence for us to enjoy it. We're the ones who made all the rules, and most of them were made during very small-minded times, right? You had to do things a certain way in Bible times, or you were bad. And if you weren't of a certain faith, you were also wrong. In a miracle, it's possible that all the prophets were misinterpreted, or they delivered the message that was comfortable at the time. Can you imagine if Christ said there is no such thing as sin? I mean, he got crucified for saying your sins are forgiven. There's no such thing as sin. Live your life. You're going to make mistakes. If you commit a heinous crime or you're a dictator killing millions of people, I suspect you might have to come back until you get it right. And like I said, other people have suggested in their near-death experiences that they learned that those people came here with an assignment to create chaos so that people can learn not to do it. The only way we would learn not to do it, we have to learn from understanding. We have to learn to make a new choice, or to say, I'm never going to do that. Ooh, that guy, what the hell was he thinking? We need chaos and conflict here so we can make new choices. But I can tell you that God was in the now. There was no past or future. And unconditional love, I've come to understand, is loving the moment and everything it brings. And don't let the brain judge it, good or bad. Accept it by saying, thank you, God. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to learn and grow from it. And it's easy to see the good things and the joyous things as gifts. It's much more difficult to accept the things that really bother us as gifts. But what if they're God knocking on your door, knocking on your noggin to wake you up and stretch you and teach you to overcome things you don't know that you don't know about yourself? Maybe. All right. Any questions? You can email me, Steve at, right here, you can see it. Steve, just add a Steve here at stevelentini.com. This is one of my books. Now, if you go to steveleniniauthor.com, you'll see all my books. You Miss God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church. I was just reading chapter 7, How to See God Everywhere. That way you don't have to buy the book. And next week I'll read chapter 8 and the conclusion of the book. And then I'm going to start on What Reaches You Was Never Meant to Miss You. That's the next book I'm going to read. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. I'm grateful. You feel free to give comments at any time, and I'll do the best to notice and answer questions. I've got to be able to notice. But remember, I might just ask you, does that sound like small-minded thinking? Thank you.